अपने अभी ये करना है, शेयर करना है।
Okay, so I hope you can see properly, right? So I think by now you are thorough with grammar. All of you? Have you revised in grammar? You've been revising it continuously? Okay. Okay, so you yes, hello, good evening, Aditya there. Aditya and I think Adesh, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So good evening. So today, today is not there. So we'll have an extra class with you, right? We met only once. So now I think continuous will meet for about 4 or 5 weeks. And then Lucky ma'am will come back again. And then we'll continue after that, right? Okay, so last time we met, we did some of these analogy questions. Yes, good evening. So I think the first exercise we had done in class, this exercise 2 I had asked you to do. Anyone did? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? You got all of them? And there was a little, if you went with the answer key given, there was a little problem with the answer key in exercise 1. I think we had done that in class anyway. So exercise 2, no problem. You got all the answers correct? Yeah, all of you did? Who didn't do? Forgot.
Ma'am, I had a few doubts.
Yes?
I had a few doubts.
Yes, Aditya.
In question number 12, 14, and 19.
12, 14, and 19 of exercise 2 or exercise 1?
2.
Exercise 2. Okay. So this is the one we have over here. Yeah. So this is exercise number 14, right? Nouns is too subtle as what? So if you see the words nouns and subtle mean almost the same. So you can say they are synonyms, right? So you will be looking for, so the relationship is synonyms. So you will be looking for what? Yes, Aditya?
Synonyms.
You'll be looking for synonyms. So if you look at the word pairs given to you, pun is to sarcastic, fib is to honest, inquiry is to discreet, and hint into is to indirect. Now, which of these could be synonyms? Number 14. D. Hint and indirect. Is there a relationship?
There's not a synonym relationship, but hint is indirect.
Hint is something,
An indirect way to.
yeah, indirect way to tell you something, but It's not really a synonym of hint. Right? So do we have a better answer than that? If we don't have a better answer, we can go with that. So we'll look at each of them. Fun and sarcastic. Fun is saying something, playing with words, saying something in an indirect way, or even in a humorous way. It could also be sarcastic. Yeah. So the fun and sarcasm both have similar, I would say, they're used similarly. Yeah. So similar purposes. So fun, sarcastic will keep. Now fib and honest. What does fib mean? Anyone? A lie. Yeah. So fib usually means is a minor lie. So fib and honest are opposites, they're not synonyms. Inquiry and discreet, they don't really have a relationship as such. They're not synonymous. They're two different things. So now going with synonyms, fun and sarcastic is a better option than hint and indirect, right? So we'll go with fun and sarcastic. Yes, Aditya, is it clear?
In the answer sheet, it's given hint and indirect.
Yeah, that's why I said there are some options which would be wrong over there. So it will not be, it will be a fun and sarcastic. Yeah, so I'll get that. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I said it's D in the answer key, but the answer is A. Some of them are wrong even in the exercise 1, some of the answers in the answer key are wrong. Okay, in exercise 1, though we have done them, you can correct the answer key if you're going to be doing it again later. In the answer key, question 8 would be D. This would be exercise 1. Right? Number 9 would be D. Number 12 would be C. And number 17 also you can correct, it will be A. Right? The others are more or less okay. Okay, so yes, Arita, which other questions?
12 and 19.
12 and 19. Okay. 12. Now we go back to 12. Yeah. 12 is seed is to anger. Now, what does seed mean? Fuming with anger.
Unexpressed
Yeah.
and intense anger.
Intense anger. So if you see it's a difference of degree. So anger is of a lesser degree, seed is of a, so you actually, if you see like this, if you seed in anger. So because of anger, you would be seeded, right? So which one would have a similar relationship? Okay, this also, I think the answer given at the back is wrong. So, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's good. So now if you go with chortle and distress, so chortle would be to become uneasy, not keeping your calm. So now this is, chortle is a little lesser degree than distress. So that will be the answer. Snarl, confusion. You may, usually you don't snarl in confusion. Yeah, it doesn't really go. Fidget and uneasiness. That you do, yeah. When you are uneasy, you would be fidgeting.
Ma'am, doesn't chortle mean a laugh?
That would be this. Okay, so yeah, so we number 12 would be C, fidget, uneasiness.
What is chortle mean?
Chortle would mean
Doesn't it mean to like laugh or
yeah. It's not in a gleeful way. So it's not really distress, it's the opposite of distress. Okay, which other one? 19. Yes, Aditya?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Number 19. It's presentiment and hindsight. Yeah? Presentiment means, what does it mean? Anyone? No idea? It's something like foreboding, or you can predict something that is going to happen. So you have a feeling or an say an intuition that something is going to happen. That's what presentiment is. Yeah. And hindsight is when you look back at something. In hindsight, we think we should have done that. Right? So reflect back on something that has already happened. So when we are looking at the when we're looking at the options, so we'll have now if you look at this, it is antonyms, the two different scenarios opposite to each other. So anticipation and reminiscence is somewhat the same. You anticipate something and you reminisce means you look back at something.
anticipate something in the future while you
Right.
something in the past?
In the
So
past.
we-
So it has the same relationship. This is about the future. This is about the presentiment is about the future. Hindsight is about the past, right? So anticipation and reminiscence would also have the same relationship. Now, if you look at the others, provocation and exasperation. Do they have the same relationship? No. Provocation and exasperation is when you are very irritated because you have been provoked. Right? It goes together. Congratulation and consultation doesn't seem to have any relationship, right? And optimism and despair, that would be also opposite, but it doesn't have the similar type of ability because despair and optimism is two completely different things. It doesn't. Now, if you look at between despair and optimism and anticipation reminiscence, anticipation reminiscence has a similar relationship with the given words. So you'll go with A, right? Yes, I.
Got it.
Okay. Dear Shifali. Yes, Shifali. Okay. Yes, of course. No, I think they are. Okay, Sneha, were you there in my last session?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you attended. So you did exercise 2 for homework?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
No? Okay. Nishi?
Ma'am, I don't think I was there.
Yeah, I don't think you were there in my last session. So I had taken actually the first session, the introductory session for IPM. So you can go through the first session of the volume. You'll get an idea of what IPM is all about,
Yeah.
right? The IP Math is all about. And then we have just done one exercise of this. We have done analogies. So you can go through it. And if you have any doubt, you can ask me in the next session.
Yes, ma'am, sure.
Okay. Good evening, Karmanya and Manya.
Good evening, ma'am. Sorry for being late.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, you are quite late. Okay, did you have any other class right now?
No, I actually slept. I didn't. I just forgot about the class.
Overslept. So I think you should have an alarm on before you go to sleep so that you can attend
Yes.
classes on time. Yeah, make sure you're not late next time.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now you have exercise 3. Anyone did it?
Yes,
You did it?
like not all questions, like whichever
Whichever
I
you were able to.
yeah, I
So,
did like 6 to 7.
okay. Anybody else did it? No? Okay, so this exercise 3 also you will do. Yeah, so exercise 3 has 15 questions. You can do these, right? For homework, everyone. So analogies, this is session 8. Yeah. Session 8, this is exercise 3, page 110 in your books. Yeah. So anyone who's got the PDF or the book can do that. Okay, so odd man out we will do a little later. So how is your vocabulary going? Doing vocabulary? How about you people, everyone? Practicing vocabulary regularly?
Yes.
So
I read an
about-
article, whichever word I find, like 5, 6 words I write, words not written, and then using all those words I write one by
Okay, great.
anything like any short sugar.
So when you are looking up the meanings of the words, do you make a list of the synonyms and antonyms?
Yes.
Yeah, it's going great. Well, how about you all on my screen? Adesh, Sneha, Aditya.
Yes.
How about your vocabulary? Practicing?
Yes, ma'am.
How many word lists have you made?
I'm
80, 90?
on this
20, 25. Okay. No, more or less like in when you write down per page, maybe you can write down about 5 words with synonyms and antonyms, right? So more than that won't fit into one page, right? So, and this, I hope you are building up a good vocabulary. You will require vocabulary everywhere. So Adesh, how about your vocabulary list?
Ma'am, 20.
Only 20.
Yes, ma'am.
So you had about 4 weeks since I met you last, right? So I think you have to speed up on your vocabulary a little more because that is very important. You will find that you won't be able to do many of the questions if you don't know certain words. Yeah. So the more you get better in vocabulary, the better. It's easier for you, right? Yes, Karmanya, how about you?
Talking about vocabulary, Rakhi ma'am used to give us homework that we had to write a paragraph in which we had to include 5 difficult words. So
Yeah,
yeah, 4 paragraphs, that means 20 difficult words.
right. And other than that, have you been doing something on your own?
Yeah, I read those 400 words and their meanings
Mhm.
once or twice.
So, and when you read through those words, did you go into your dictionary apps and find more synonyms and antonyms?
For the words I didn't know, yeah.
Okay, so you'll be doing that for all words or whenever you are reading also, anything you come across, look up the meaning, write down the synonyms, write down the antonyms and how it is used, right?
Okay.
So you will, now it may not be that you will not require all the words that you are writing down, but at least you would have built up enough vocabulary that at least whenever you, in an exam, if you get some words, at least 50% of them meaning.
I
Right?
remember asking.
Right. No, it's not possible to remember all words, but
But
they'll
if I
be
see
familiar.
one of them, I
Like,
feel
yeah,
all
so
them
like
are-
you come across a word again, you think that, okay, it was something of this sort.
Yes.
So it's not an unknown word for you, right? Okay, so now here you have this next exercise 3 you will be doing. And in fact, this one, odd man out, is all about vocabulary. You could try at least exercise 1. Yeah, that's it. Now, the main points, like even in anything that you read, any exercise you do, whether it is analogies or these, look up the dictionary. You don't know a word, look up the dictionary, write down the meaning, write down the synonyms. Any word you come across anywhere, it's not only the vocabulary it is that is confused. So if you look at these words, many of them even I haven't come across. Some of them are familiar. Maybe I remember the meaning, maybe I don't. But the thing is that we need to know the words. Yeah. So take up 5 questions from here. Right. So first 5 questions of the odd man out. So everyone write down. First 5 questions of odd man out. You will look at the meanings, write down the synonyms, pick up any of the 5 words and write sentences. Or as you were doing, write a paragraph. Yeah. Anyway, if you think that you can't connect the sentence, the words, you can write individual sentences. So look up how it is used and then make your own sentences. So do just the first 5. Yeah, because they are typical words. And the main purpose is to build your vocabulary. So do first 5. You don't know the meaning, look up the meanings of each of these words and then figure out, okay, which one will not be in the same category. Right? Okay, so this is the 2 things you'll be doing for homework. And then we'll do exercise 2 and sheet it up. So now today we'll be beginning with sentence correction. So there's a very important question, like you will get at least 4 to 5 questions, maybe even 6 or 7 on sentence correction. Right? Now, one thing more that I need to stress on. So the last time we met, I had told you, I had given you a little introduction on the format of the IPM, right? Now, this year, what we found is they had the IPM in the first week of July. Now, in verbal ability, they got 40 questions. Or no, they had 45 questions. They had 45 questions where they have to solve in 40 minutes. Usually there are 40 questions to do in 45 minutes, in 40 minutes. This time it was 40 questions in 45 questions in 40 minutes. So the speed you have to have, this was not expected by anybody. And in the quants and short answer in quants, there were less questions compared to verbal. Yeah. So this is something you have to keep in mind that if I say, if you think that, okay, it's going to be 30 questions or 40 questions, it may not be so. There may be a change in format at any point of time for any of the exams. Yeah. So you have to prepare yourself for the exam And whatever the format comes, however it comes, you have to be prepared. Yeah, so anything unexpected can come out. Right? Okay, now the sentence correction, these type of questions will be solely or at least 95% dependent on your grammar rules. That's the main purpose why we did all the grammar before we came to the questions. Right? So you've done some questions with IPM also. As you did each chapter, you did some questions. Now, what we'll do is we will go into the format of the exam. So the things that you have already done in grammar, subject verb agreement, modifiers, parallelism, yeah, pronoun agreement, that's very important. But this is where we usually miss out on. Yeah. Diction, that is usage of words. Yeah. Syntax or diction, whatever you want to call it, and redundancy. So these are the things that you have to keep in mind when you are dealing with sentence correction questions. Okay. So just a recap of whatever you've done so far in your grammar. Subject verb agreement. So what was the main thing in subject verb agreement? The verb and the subject should agree in number and so in person and number. So if it's a female, then female, male, then male, and in number. So now there's a little trick that you can remember. So there are two things which you come across. The first subject reference and the farthest subject reference and the nearest subject reference. So when you have questions like either or neither nor, then what was the rule? Anybody? Do you remember?
Nearest subject.
Huh?
Nearest subject.
Nearest subject. So when you have either or, if you have both singular or both plural, then there's no problem. It's anyway either singular or plural. If you have one singular and one plural, the nearest subject, right? And if you have, now this applies to both subject verbs and what else? Tenses, right? Both of them have the same thing. So now we get confused sometimes when we talk about like this one, not only the principal, but also the teachers. Yeah. So when you have not only and but also, not only A, but also B, then what do you do? Anyone? So if you have, say, singular here and a plural here, your first subject is singular, second subject is plural. So when you're talking about but also, not only A, but also B, then
Is.
Why is? Because we are going with the farthest subject, right? So we are going with the first subject. Not only, so now here, why we are doing this? Your main subject is A. Who's your main subject? A, right? So here if we say not only the principal, but also the teachers, then
Are.
Is. Why? Because your main subject is the principal. First subject rule. Further subject is the one which is not near the, say, if we say are, or, is going to whatever, right? So now this is your verb. Yeah. So what comes now? This if we look at the plural or singular verb over here, what is this corresponding to? The main subject. Yeah. Now here your main subject is the principal. So we'll go with singular, even though your second one is plural. Right? So these are little confusing questions that you will come across, which you have to remember. Now, if you are talking about as well as, so the second example, the principal as well as the teachers. So when you talk about as well as, then is. So again, is the principal is the main subject over here, right? Say if I talk about something like, yeah. So these you have to remember when are you going to go with the first subject, when are you going to go with the second subject? Yeah, when one is plural and one is singular.
So not only but also
Sorry, not only but also this is wrong. Not only but also will be is not only but also.
that is
Okay, yeah, in this case it will be not only the principal but also the teachers. Ideally, we go with the main subject. Okay, here we take it as like this and this. Yeah, not only is the principal but also the teacher. That is, both of them are going. So that we can go with.
what would it be like if it's not only the teachers but also the principal? Then would it be is playing?
Then it will be so here we are going with the father's subject rule, not only this but also this.
No, where according to the text of the government,
But the nearest subject rule. Right. Here we are going with the nearest subject rule. So the whichever is near the verb, that we will go with.
then we go out.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a little confusing. You have to remember this when you're coming across the questions. Okay, now when we come to the modifier, what is the main rule of any modifier? So what are the types of modifiers you did? Limiting modifier and the three types of modifiers you can do.
The misplaced, dangling.
Displaced modifier, yeah. So dangling modifiers are the modifiers which come in the beginning of the sentence. And limiting modifiers are those words which change the meaning of the sentence. They come along with the verbs or adverbs, right? And the misplaced modifiers are those which can come either in the middle or at the end. So what was the main rule regarding modifiers? That when do you think that this modifier is not correctly placed? What was the rule? Anyone from there? So when do you think that the modifier is not correct? The modifier should be near the noun it is modifying, right? So whatever the subject is, that should be near the modifier, right? Remember now? So the sentence should make sense. The modifier should not be talking about something else. It should be talking about the subject it is supposed to talk about, right? So say if we talk about, now we have the adverb modifiers and adjective modifiers also. Now if you look at this particular example over here, chicken smart the travel agency could not help admiring the model's clothes. So chicken smart is your modifier in this case. Yeah. What is it talking about? The travel agency or the model's clothes? It's supposed to talk about the model's clothes, but that means this is a dangling modifier error. So it has to be, so the sentence itself has to be rewritten in such a way that the modifier talks about something it is supposed to talk. Okay, so it could be rearranged as or rewritten as the travel agency could not help admiring the model's chicken smart clothes. Right? So these are the types of questions you will be coming across. Modifier error questions. Say walking down the road, my hat flew off. So who was walking down the road, my hat or me?
Me.
Right? But in the given sentence, what does it seem to be? The hat was probably was walking and it flew off. So this can be corrected in different ways. Yeah, we can say that, right? Or while I was walking down the road, my hat flew off. Anyway, depends upon your option. Now, the thing is that your options will be given to you. You are not writing your own answer, right? So given the options, you have to be able to figure out which one is correct. Then you did parallelism. Yeah. When either a list or two parts of a sentence would be in the same grammatical form, right? So just to recap, say we have, he desired to make a lot of money and that he might earn a good reputation. So what do you do the first thing? You see where is the sentence divided. So where would the conjunction be? Do you need a pencil? Yeah. You're borrowing hers, that's it. So here, where is your conjunction? And, right? So the two parts of the sentence, if you see, you have, he desired to make a lot of money. That is one part. And the other part is that he might earn a good reputation. Right? So what is the format of the first part? He desired to make a lot of money. So you have a verb, right? An article, proposition, preposition, and noun. So the second part of the sentence should be in the same format, right? So your answer could be something like, he desired to make a lot of money and earn a good reputation, right? Or like they have given, he desired to make a lot of money and to earn a good reputation. Anyway, could be correct, right? So suppose you don't have two over here, even then it will be correct. So two goes in the beginning of the sentence and then the two parts, right? Okay, now you did pronoun agreement error. Of course you did. Must have done. So you have a sentence and there are a few pronouns, but it is not clear what the pronoun refers to. Yeah. So that is called that is when a pronoun antecedent error comes in, or an ambiguous pronoun error comes in. You can say it in either way. Say we talk about the sentence, the minister met the manager and he recognized him. Now you have two pronouns over here, he and him. Which one refers to who? It's not very clear, right? It could be either way. He could be referring to the minister, him could be referring to the manager or the minister. We don't know. So there's a little ambiguity in the sentence. So these are the types of pronoun ambiguity errors you will be coming across. Yeah. And you will now any sentence that you write or in a sentence correction, it should have clarity. If it doesn't have clarity, there's an error, right? So you have to be able to correct the error. So suppose we say the minister met the manager who recognized him. So the manager would be the who, right? Or if you say the minister met the manager and recognized him. So the minister recognized the manager and the him refers to the manager. So this brings about a little clarity in the sentence, right? Now we can come across diction, that is usage of words. Here's where your homophones, possessives, all those come in. Yeah. Say ITS and IT apostrophe S. I think you're still to do this. Anyway, these are very normal things that you come across all the time. So ITS and IT apostrophe S, what's the difference? It's
It is.
IT apostrophe S would be it is, it's a contraction. And ITS is a possession, right? So whenever you come across apostrophes, you have to be a little alert. Is it correct? Is it not correct? It could be apostrophes used in plurals, that is after the S, or before the S, or double S, and an apostrophe in between. So depends upon how the question comes. So, and you could come across homophones like adapt, adept, similar sounding words, but they're not the same meaning. Yeah. Or you can also come across words used in different ways. Yeah. So the correct usage of the word. So these are different types of questions that come in the usage of words. Another important thing is redundancy. So a sentence may be grammatically correct, but there could be repetition of words or repetition of ideas. So there's where you have to look for answers which are concise. Yeah. Also, if in any of the other type of sentence corrections, say you could also have questions like a sentence is given to you and 4 options are given, and you have to choose which one is a better way of saying the same thing. Yeah. So they may all be grammatically correct. So what do? You choose the one which is concise. There's one thing you have to remember. Always go with the answer that is concise. Right? Apart from being grammatically correct, it should be concise. So these are the things you have to keep in mind when, and all these grammar rules, these are just the recap of them. So these are the grammar rules you have to go back, revise, so you get all your answers correct. But the grammar questions are such that, yes, you can say that if you are thorough with your grammar, you will get it. Yeah. Vocabulary sometimes becomes less. Maybe you don't know the word. Taking a wild guess is also very dicey. You will be losing a point. So don't do that. Maybe you got 10 questions correct and 5 wrong. So you lose 5 marks, and that's very crucial. You'd rather not do it than lose all your marks, right? Okay. So now when we're talking about the questions that you are going to get, so there are certain things that will help you in answering these types of questions. So first thing what we talk about is grammar rules. Very important. Yeah. So, and there's one thing you have to be very careful is about your verb tenses. That is where they would be throwing confusing questions at you. So before, after, during, these are the, you have to look at the keywords, which is what is giving you a hint of whether it is correct or not, right? So now when we said similar answer choices, so when you have answered now the 4 answer choices, maybe 2 you could eliminate. 2 of them you're not sure about. So then what do? Analyze them further. Yeah. There could be some small, minute differences you have missed out on. Right? Maybe a small word, maybe an apostrophe, maybe a tense. Something will make it wrong. Or the usage of a word could also make it wrong. Right? So when you have, especially when you have those sentences, you're given 4 sentences, and you are asked which of the sentences uses the words correctly. So there's where it's very important to know how the usage of the words are. Every single word will be counted over there. Yeah. There's no trick. Only thing you can do is, yeah, there is a trick. If you know the root words, you can think there are certain words we'll use some vocabulary when I teach you how to identify words, or maybe Rakhi and I will be doing that. So when you talk about root words, it's like there's certain words which form the roots, like ante. Ante means past. Yeah. So ante-meridian is the one comes before. So any word with ante means it is something to do with the past. Yeah. Premonition, that we came across the word. Yeah. What? Yeah. So something which is before. Or if you talk about pronoun, chronology, things happening in order, in a certain order. So when you come across chrono type of a thing in a word and you don't know the meaning, you know that this is something to do with time. Yeah. So that is how you can some difficult words, break them down, and you can figure out the meaning with the parts. Right? So that means practice, you keep doing. So don't worry. By the time you come to the exam, you'll be perfect with it. Okay. Now, in some of the questions, parts of the sentence can be underlined for you. Now, the thing is that don't look at only the part which is underlined. You'll go wrong. Right? You have to look at the entire sentence. So that non-underlined parts are as important as the underlined parts. So you maybe from the underlined part, you can't figure out the tense that has to be changed. But if you read the whole sentence, you can figure out that, okay, there is some tense error between the two parts of the sentence. The whole sentence should be in the same tense, always, right? Or if it is in plural, then both parts should be in plural, right? Depends upon the sentence. Is that good? So look at the hints. You have to look out for hints, right? Especially in sentences which are long and complicated. Read the entire sentence, see what is wrong. Say it is a sentence improvement question. Yeah, there of course the entire sentence will be required, but otherwise also read the entire sentence. And as I said, choose what is concise, the shorter answer. Given 2 answers, what will you go for? The one that is shorter, even if both are grammatically correct. Right? This is something you have to remember. Another thing that you should do, now after you think that, okay, out of the 4 options, option D is seems to be the correct answer. Yeah. Go back to your sentence, substitute that word or phrase or part of the sentence into the given sentence and read it. If it seems correct, go for it. If you find an error after substituting, then sure enough that is not your correct answer. Right? Okay. Now, and another thing you have to remember, the meaning should not be altered. Right? So when you are substituting, you have to see another thing, that the meaning of the sentence should not change. If your option, if the word or a phrase is changing the meaning of the sentence, it's a wrong answer. Right? So you will go with the process of elimination. Right? So instead of going like thinking that, okay, which one will be the right answer, you will be first eliminating all the options which seem to be the wrong. So maybe two of them you surely eliminate. And you're left with, say, two of them. Now, out of the two, you sit to analyze which one has some error, which one fits in better, which one is concise, right? So these are things, little things that you have to keep in mind. Okay, now coming to the spelling errors. Yes, they don't go with so much about the spelling, but yes, there could be questions where you have to identify mistakes in parts of the sentences. There's a spelling comes in. And another place where spelling comes in is when they will be, you will be asked to identify the correct usage of the word. There are also spelling counts. Yeah, you have to be careful about the spelling mistake. And yes, they say that you can trust your ears, but not always. Sometimes things may seem correct, but are not. Okay. So this is what the things you have to keep in mind: grammar and how to deal with the questions. Now coming to the different types of sentence correction questions that will be coming across. Yeah, it's not just one type, there may be various types. And here, and always one thing very important, always read the directions very carefully. Yeah, maybe you think, okay, this is a sentence correction question, and you read all the options, which part of the sentence, say it says, which part of the sentence is either correct or incorrect, right? Now you read all of them, you marked the parts which were incorrect, but they asked you to mark the ones which were correct. So your answer goes wrong. Yeah. So be very careful about the instructions given to you. Yeah. Different questions will have different instructions. Always read the instructions carefully. So now there could be type 1 if we say, I've categorized them into different types so that we can figure out what we need to do. So here's marking the correct sentences in a paragraph. Yeah. So when you're given 4 options, it forms a paragraph. Like if you go with this example here. If you look at the directions over here, in the question, there are 4 sentences or parts of sentences that form a paragraph. Identify the sentences or parts that are correct in terms of grammar. Now, they'll not always give this in bold. You have to figure it out. Write it down. Now, you will your exam will be online, so you can't write on the screen. But in your rough paper, question number this, correct answer. That is, so it registers in your mind. Write down. I have to choose the correct answer from that. Right? Now, if you look at these, so pick out the most appropriate option out of the options that for the your 4 options are given to you. Then you go below. Your answer options are number 1 A and C, number 2 B and D, 3 A and B, and 4 is C and D. Right? So out of these, you have to be able to click the correct answer. Now in your exam, you're not, now for practice here for the class test, you will be doing the OMR sheet, bubbling it up. But in your exam, you will be only clicking on the correct answer and submitting. There are 2 steps to it. You click, either you keep it for review or don't click at all. If you keep it for review, you must have time to come back to it, otherwise you don't get marks. Okay? And if you click it, you should be sure that it is the correct answer. Right? So now if you look at this question, the host was gracious enough as we had warmly received, and he overwhelmed with joy whenever anything big or small demanded by our children. The entire host family left no stone unturned to fulfill our desires, and we began to consider ourselves as if we had belonged to some great royalty. Right? This is an entire sentence. Now, out of this, you have to figure out which parts are correct and which are wrong. Right? So now read it and see what is wrong and when. As we were. Now, what is your question over here? You have to mark the correct one. So you eliminate the incorrect ones. Right? So as we had warmly received, or we were warmly received, or had been warmly received. Yeah. So whatever, anything could be, but the thing is that this is incorrect. Now come to B.
He
And he was overwhelmed. Should be. So that is also incorrect.
I think was because was
Ah.
and
So these are the two, and if you look at the other two, are they correct? So Karmanya, which ones do you think would be your answer?
Still doing.
Yes, can you be a little louder?
Still doing. I cannot figure it
Still
out.
doing? Okay. Aditya, did you get your answer?
Opted for some other form of government.
Huh?
Opted for some other form of government.
I'm talking about the first one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The host was gracious. That one.
Yes, ma'am. I think the C and D.
C and D are correct. Yeah. So your answer will be for C and D. Right? Now, if you think that okay, A and B are wrong, I can mark A and B. You'll be getting a wrong answer. -1 straight away. Yeah. So be very, very careful of the directions. Yeah. Okay, now let's see another one. And similarly, you could have mark the incorrect sentences or parts of sentences. Right? Now, if you look at this one, the second example, it would have been better for the improvement of socio-economic condition of a country if we opted for some other form of government and the economic system than the one that exists now. Now read this as a complete sentence and see where the error lies. Remember, you have to choose the one which is incorrect. C. Why? What is wrong in C? If we had opted, so it's in the past tense. If we opted for, would be in the present. If we had opted, we'll make it in the past tense. Yes, Nishi, did you get the answer?
Ma'am, I feel that even the D sentence is wrong.
And the economic system that one had opted for some other form of government. Okay, why do you think it's wrong? What is the error?
Because and is used as a conjunction and still we are using in singular tense that exists now. It should be that exists now, right? Because government and economic system both are used.
Opted for some other form of government and economic system than the one that exists now. If you read the entire sentence, it says one. Yeah, they're talking about the system and you have one. So whenever you come across this word one, you forget about what is plural and what is singular. Your answer will be singular.
Ma'am, so the government isn't being talked about here.
Right? Than the one. Now here, it is not the government and the economic system Now, if you look at the first part of the sentence, socio-economically opted for some other form than the one that exists now.
So technically, if both government and economic system are being talked about, then shouldn't it be than the ones that exist now? Like there should be an S to the one.
No, if you look at the entire sentence, opted for some, if you see opted for some other form, what does that mean? That is singular,
Correct.
right? Opted for some other form. Now, if we keep the of government and the economic system in brackets, then what does it read?
I'm sorry, I didn't get you.
If you put of the government and the economic system in brackets, so what do you get here?
Opted for some other form than the one that exists now.
Right? So you have done the one, and you are talking about a form.
Okay, ma'am, got it.
This is what it relates to. Now, this is an additional information in the middle, and then a comma is used. So maybe that is confusing you, but it is a continuous sentence, so we don't really need commas over here. So the only incorrect part is C. Got it?
Yes.
Okay, now you have another type of question where there'll be an, yes? Okay, yeah, sorry. Sorry about that. So if you want to have water, stretch yourself. Yes, we're taking a 5 minutes break and 5 minutes or 4 minutes for them. So only 4 of you are always there in class? There's 5 of you. Okay. Who is that? Sneha.
So tomorrow there will be a class of quantitative maths or English only.
Tomorrow, as of now, is going to be English.
Okay.
If there's any change, you will be informed.
Okay, ma'am.
IPM section, still 150, then we have an half an hour break, and then we have our advanced step.
Yeah.
And it would end on like 2:30. And then at 3:30, we like the account students have the accounts test. So
Okay.
it would be too much like
So
we take so long.
maybe you can put in a message to sir that if I can't take the test now, so is that the problem with all of you?
No, it's
Only
only I'm the one who's taking
Okay.
commerce class. IPM one. But like if the commerce test timings can be like given, like 2:30 our test ends, so like if at 2:45 the account test can be made.
So you can do one thing, you can put in a request.
After half an hour, we'll come back.
You can do something like you can put in a request that I will not be able to take, I have this problem. I cannot take the test on a later date. So maybe within the week, any day you can take the test.
I don't know.
Yeah, no problems. Okay, actually, I've forgotten your names, Prema. It's been a long time. Satvika, okay.
Yeah.
Yours was
Yeah.
Leah. Tanvia. And Pritha. Sneha isn't there. Manu is there. Okay, so can we resume? Yes. Yes, my girls, can we resume? Can we get back to work? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now we talked about question type 1 and 2. That is the correct answer and the incorrect answer, incorrect part of the sentence. Now you can have another type of question where, okay, so I hope everybody else is back on screen. Manya, are you there? I can't see you, so I don't know. Yes, Manya, if you're there, you can respond.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I hope you're able to follow whatever we are doing.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a little difficult between the ones in front of me and ones in screen. So now there's a third type of yes, please. Can you come back here? So the third type of question is where a part of a sentence could be underlined for you, yeah, and you 4 options given to you, and if you choose which one is correct. Now the part that is underlined could also be given in your options. So if it is correct, you go with that. If there are no errors, otherwise you would be looking for the part which would be replacing the incorrect part of the sentence. Yeah. Say we have the second question. Okay. So here there could be an like a small part or a large part anyway. So the judges finally distributed the awards among the most active children, talking at length among themselves. So what do you think is wrong in this sentence? Does it seem correct? Yes, Neha? Does it seem correct? No? Sneha, do you think it's correct?
Well, I'm reading.
So what is wrong here? So the judges finally distributed the awards among the most active children, talking at length among themselves. This is the modifier error, right? So talking at length among themselves, who are talking, the children or the judges?
That is not mentioned.
That is not mentioned, that we have to figure out. Now, the judges finally distributed the awards. So finally, they distributed, I think they must be having some discussion, right? So now, the way the sentence is, it turns out to be the children were talking at length among themselves. So the option would be C. C, right? So the judges talking at length. Now here, if you see, there's a comma in here. Talking at length among themselves finally distributed the awards among the most active children. So talking at length, near the modifier should be near the noun that it is modifying, right? So that corrects the error. Okay. Now there's another type of question you will be coming across, rewriting of the entire sentence. Yeah, so nothing will be underlined for you. You have to choose the option that is correcting the entire sentence. So sure enough, you will be picking out what is wrong and going for the option which is absolutely correct, not partly correct, right? So we have this example here. And you will be reading the option, the directions. Below is a given sentence which is followed by 4 options. If you think there is no error in the question, choose option A, right? So option A will be the same as the given sentence. Else choose the most appropriate option in accordance with the rules of standard written English. Yeah, so there will be some grammatical errors. So like if we have this question, this sentence, it says, I have been ill for fortnight and the management as well as the school sports committee prefer to elect me the captain of school team. Initially, I thought that it was only enough fun, but I was wrong. So many errors. Yeah. So that's why you have to choose the sentence which has corrected all the errors. Right? So you will not go with A. Now, first you identify the errors. Say, I have been ill for fortnight. It should be either for the fortnight or the previous fortnight or a fortnight. Something, some article should go with it. Now, if you look at management as well as the school sports committee prefer. Is that correct? Management as well. When you have to see as well as. Now, when you are talking about as well as, say A as, what is your main subject? A. So you will go with A, right? So in this case, what do we have? The management. Now management is what type of a noun? Collective noun. Always singular. Right? So your verb will be singular. So it will be prefers. Right? And then you have in a fun.
Yes, it should be in a fun way or in fun.
Yeah, or in only in fun, something of that sort. So this O fun should not be there. So now you have identified 3 errors. Yeah. Now you will be looking at the options which will be correcting all 3 errors. Obviously, you will be eliminating A. Yeah. Now if you look at B, I have been ill for the fortnight and the management as well as the school sports committee prefer. Eliminated. Prefer is still there. Yeah. Now we come to C. I have been ill for a fortnight. Yeah, that could be taken. The management as well as the school sports committee prefers to elect me. Prefers has been corrected. Initially, I thought that it was only in fun, but I was wrong. In all fun also corrected. But still, we will not stop here. We will look at the next option also. Right? Maybe this is more concise. Or it's a better way of saying things. So if you come with across an option where you think all the grammatical errors have been corrected, don't stop there. Anyway, for all questions, no matter what type of questions you get, go through each and every option to eliminate. Now we come to D. I was ill for fortnight. So for fortnight, it's still there. Obviously, it is wrong. So we don't even need to read the entire sentence. Yeah. So C is your correct answer. So this is another type where you will have to identify all possible errors and look for the option which has corrected all of them.
Questions, most of the errors recorded. And now the option is not making
No, you will have at least one completely correct. Right? It will not be ambiguous. At least one option will be completely correct.
But according to me, I think that the option B is for a 4.2 and in a star. If we move the errors based on that, I feel like the past tense the option is a better way of.
Yeah, but if you see the errors are still there.
Yeah, the errors are.
So the errors are still there, so you don't have to think any further. Right? So all you have to do is you have to identify the option which is most correct. Right? Maybe there could be some problems here and there, but between the given options, which one is yes?
Instead of looking for all the misplaced grammatical errors, we can just look for the last one, in a fun. All the other sentences have in a fun, but only C has in fun. So with that we can just identify what is correct.
Yeah, you can pick up any one of them. Now, if you have to look for others also, you can go with them. If you are in a time crunch, that can also be done. Right? Okay. Now, so these were the 4 main types of questions you'll be coming across. Right? Now, just for a little bit. Now, here are a few questions, few sentences, which may or may not have an error in them. So just read through the sentences and see which ones could be correct, which ones have errors, and what is the error. So the first one is done for you. So this is a modifier error. The head could not have been lifted by her friend. The scarf should have been. Now coming to the others. You can mark and what could be the correct answer. You can also think of that. Consider
Would it be I wish I were again? Why is it making use word?
I'll talk to that. So this if questions are very important, you'll always get at least one. Okay, so everyone gone through these? Let's see.
What if there are some sentences?
No, not mandatory.
There is an option saying no.
Yeah, so all questions you will
Can there
get.
be a possibility? Because
Yeah.
sometimes there are options where none of these is. None of these is.
So you will get at least one option which is the same as the given sentence or the part of the sentence. So if you went through the questions, you would have seen one of them was the same as given. So if there is no error, you will be going with the one that is already there. Right? Okay, let's look at these quickly. Pleased with their conduct, it was decided by her to honor them. So would it be concise? She decided to honor them would be a better way. So if you have that option, you will be going with that. I enjoyed the giving of gifts and the giving of food during the holidays. So what is the problem here? Parallelism. Parallelism. Yeah. So both should be of the same. So I enjoy giving gifts and food during holidays. Right? He looks like his father does. His father looks. So this is not, there's some ambiguity in the sentence. Yeah. So either you would say he looks the way his father does, or he looks like his father. Yeah. Could be either. Now if you look at this one, if I were the mayor of the city, I would have done so much for the poor.
If I was,
Yeah.
if I was the mayor of the city,
No,
ma'am.
it is if I were. No, this is
Not
here.
saying that you have like talk about a higher position that normal people work, like for king or for queen or
No,
like
that
mayor or
could be, but the thing is that if you have if coming in, if leads to a hypothetical situation. Now, whenever you have if, it will be associated with, or the verb that will come in will be present perfect. No, sorry, past perfect. So you will have the past perfect verb. So in this case, it will be verb. If I were, right? So, and along with verb, you will never have will. It will always be would or could. So because it is a hypothetical situation, nothing definite will come. It will always be indefinite. So whenever you have if, remember, you will be using were along with would or could or should. Right? So if you look at the sentence, if I were the mayor of the city, I would have done so much for them.
would be better to say I don't know that a lot. So much.
It could be. So
ma'am,
much.
what is the mistake in this sentence?
I just explained whenever you have if in a sentence, because this sentence begins with if. Or if you look at the next one, I wish. I wish. Both of them are hypothetical situations. Right? And whenever you have hypothetical situations, you will be using were along with would or could as the sentence requires. Yeah. So if you look at the first sentence, it will be if I were the mayor, I would. That is correct. Right?
That's
Grammatical.
correct.
And if you look at the next one, I wish I was a king.
I was the
I wish I were a king.
how about you?
Hmm? This is also hypothetical. You are wishing, wishful situation. So both of these are hypothetical situations. You actually are not. You are wishing you were. Like if I say, if I were you, I wouldn't have done this. Right? So whenever you have a hypothetical situation, like a wishful thinking or if coming in, you will be using were, not was. Right? And would or could, something of that will come in, not will or can will be wrong. Right? So this you have to remember. Okay, now you can look at the next one. The news from across the border are not encouraging. Is not encouraging. News is always singular. Though it is plural, but it's always singular. Okay. Okay, there are two more here. Most of the money was lost.
Much
Hmm?
much of the money.
Well,
Is
much
not-
money.
Because
Here we come to whether it is countable or not countable.
no, money is not.
Money is countable. But when you say Yeah, money you can count, but when you say lots of it,
But still,
it's still
whatever the
counted.
amount
Yeah.
is.
So in that case, what will we say? We will not say much, we will say most. Right? Most will be countable, much will be uncountable. Right? Like the number of students are going to on the trip, that is also countable. A number of students. It will be not the, but a number of students.
So most of the money was lost is correct.
Yes, it is correct. Right? Because money is something which you can count. So much of the money will not really be used. Much is used when it is something which is in a bulk or which is much of the water. So water is not countable. Right? Much of the water was wasted. So there you will not say most of the water was wasted. Usually. Now depends upon the options given to you, of course. That is how usually it is done. Okay, now let's look at some examples here before we go into the exercises. The President of Costa Rica, look at example 1. President of Costa Rica, along with 2 vice presidents, are elected for a 4-year term by the people. So here what do we have? We have along with. So we will be looking at who is the main subject, right? The President of Costa Rica will be the main subject and the verb will be decided according to the first subject, right? So is elected will be the correct answer. So C, option C is, so it's, is this clear for everybody?
Actually, there are 2 similar options.
Huh.
And is written that's clear.
4-year
Term.
terms.
So we would be
4-year term. 4-year term, it's singular. You won't say for a 4-year terms.
No, actually the difference is a 4-year term or 4-year terms.
Hmm.
Like these
Is elected for 4-year. So if you look at this, are elected for a 4-year term by the people. So it's not multiple 4-year terms. Now the meaning should not change. One thing more you have to remember. Whatever option you choose, the meaning of the sentence should not change. If you choose E, the meaning of the sentence changes. Here you are saying they are elected for a 4-year term.
Yeah, so if we say a 4-year term, it means current person has to do 1 term.
Yeah,
But the option E would be that
multiple
generally 4-year
terms.
terms. Yes.
Multiple terms. So that's not what this sentence is saying. Right? So not only grammatically, but also the meaning of the sentence should be correct. Okay, now we look at the next one, number 2. Previously, though we have been thought to have been extinct, a team of biologists rediscovered the new Caledonia crested gecko in 1994. What's wrong here? Or is it correct? Yes, Manya. Anything wrong here?
Yes, ma'am.
Anything wrong in example 2?
Ma'am, a minute.
Read it carefully. So anybody else has the answer? First identify what is wrong. Or is it correct? Modifier issue. Right.
And the first part of the sentence previously thought to have been extinct. It's about the gecko and not the biologist.
Not the biologist. So this is a modifier error. So the biologists are not extinct. So we have to choose an option which corrects that error. So what would be the answer? E, right? Now if you look at the others, A says a team of biologists rediscovered the That is also like here again, we are still having the same error. We have to deal with the underlying portion, not the rest of it. Right? Rest of it remains, only the underlying portion is going to be changed. So a team of biologists in 1994 is the same thing again. In 1994, Gecko was rediscovered by a team of biologists. So a team of biologists is already there. We can't use it again. And we discovered there is also a new. So E gives you the correct option. So if you read the whole sentence along with E, read it. Right. So the team of biologists previously thought to have been extinct. Okay, now wait a minute. Yeah, I think the whole thing should have been underlined. A team of biologists rediscovered the new. So the whole thing after the comma will be underlined. Okay, so E will be the option which is correcting the error. Okay, now coming to number 3. Now here, what is the problem here? Or is it correct? It's not that always there will be a problem, it could also be correct. Read the sentence carefully. Now you cannot do anything with the rest of the sentence, only the underlined part, right? So read through the other options, eliminate the ones which are wrong. That's the only way you come to your correct answer. There's no issue. So now to confirm whether there's A is correct. Now A is the one which is the same, right? Now to confirm that, you will have to be eliminating all the others. So if you look at B, compensating state governments for the damaging of, that is not in the same form, it's not parallel. Giving state governments compensation for damaging, the meaning changes for damaging, for damage to their, instead of damaging. And if you look at C, okay, if you look at D, giving compensation to state governments for the damage of, that is about too early. It's too early. Redundancy error, right? And the giving of compensation to state governments for damaging, again, damaging comes in, first thing, and secondly, it is again too early. Yeah. So A is your correct answer. Now let's look at number 4. I hope everyone is following. Rajesh, I think you had, did you miss something? Yes, Rajesh, did you miss something?
Ma'am, I got disconnected because of my Wi-Fi.
We were just doing these examples. We did till number 3, we're number 4 now. So read number 4 and figure out what the answer could be. Yes, got your answer? So quite a long sentence, But if you look at the format of the sentence, you will be able to figure out what is wrong. Is C, yes. So why C? Now, if you look at the sentence itself, many of today's mathematicians use computers to test cases that are either too time consuming or involve too many variables to test manually, allowing the exploration of. Let me look at this, allowing the exploration of theoretical issues. Now, if you look at the rest of it, it is not in the same parallel structure. Right? First thing, and what are we looking at? Allowing the exploration of. What are the subject here? The mathematicians. What are they doing? They use computers to do this and this, and it allows them to explore theoretical issues, right? So that should be clear. So C will give you that clarity. If you look at the others, you can easily eliminate all of them. Now another thing here, one more thing. We look at the semicolon here and the semicolon here. Is it correctly used? What's wrong in the semicolon?
It's basically used for long pause.
Anything else? Now there are certain rules in the use of semicolon. Though IPM doesn't test you for punctuations, but still you should know, like if there is a usage of a comma or a semicolon, what is the difference? Now, when you have a comma, now I hope you know what clauses are, independent clauses and dependent clauses. Yeah, they have a verb and a subject. So when we are talking about independent clauses, these are clauses which can stand as sentences on their own. They are parts of the sentence, but can be written as complete sentences. And dependent clauses are those which cannot be written as complete sentences. Suppose I say, it was raining heavily today and I got wet, right? So it was raining heavily today is a sentence in itself. So that's an independent clause. I got wet, that's also an independent clause. Yeah. Now if you see there's and in the middle. So when you have two independent clauses, they will be either joined by a comma and a conjunction, say and or any other and or but for something of that sort. So you would have learned the fan-verse conjunction in school. Yeah. So those fan-verse conjunction will go in. So or other than that, if there are two independent clauses, you can also have a semicolon in it. Right? But the semicolon will not connect one say you have a dependent clause instead of this. So a dependent clause followed by an independent clause, semicolon will be wrong. If the same sentence I use it, because it was raining heavily, I got wet. The because makes the first part of the sentence dependent clause. Because it was raining heavily is not a sentence in itself, right? So when you have that, in that case, now suppose the first part is a dependent clause, the second part is an independent clause. You will just have a comma in the middle, right? And if the independent clause comes first and the dependent clause comes after, there is no comma in the middle. But you will not have a semicolon. Right? So semicolon comes in when two parts of the sentence are independent clauses. Right? And the ideas are connected. So there are three ways in which independent clauses can either be combined or separated. So when you come to improvement of sentences, sometimes you may come across two parts of a sentence and you don't know how to connect it. Yeah. So when you have two independent clauses, you can either have a comma and a conjunction in between. Yeah. Or you can have a semicolon. Now suppose you think that the two independent clauses are too long. What happened? What happened between? Or you can have a full stop or a period in between. So you separate the two independent clauses into two separate sentences. Now these come handy when you are writing. So when you are writing your essays, when you qualify and go into act, your grammar and punctuations, the way you write matters, right? So the sentence structure becomes very important. So if you look at this one, would now many of today's mathematicians use computer test cases that are that would either take too much time or involve too many variables to test manually. Yeah. Semicolon, allowing the mathematicians to explore rest of it. Now the semicolon over here is wrongly used because if you look at the first part of the sentence, it is not an independent sentence. You can't write it separately as a sentence. Yeah. So that is one point that you have to keep in mind. Even if, say, the rest of it is completely okay, maybe. Now, if you look at this, if you have this sentence C and you had a semicolon over here, that would have been implied. Right? So it is not, they don't usually test you on punctuations, but they may. So you have to remember the punctuations also. Okay? So now coming to this exercise. So here you have, in this exercise, you have the 4 types of questions that we talked about, 5 of each type. Type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. Right? So now these are the questions that you have to do. We'll do a couple of them, and the rest you can do for homework. And yeah, this will be the homework you have to do today. Right? Because I would want, otherwise it would have been 2 classes and you would have got 1 week in the middle. But unfortunately, we have the next class tomorrow. So at least do some of it, yeah, as far as possible. So let's look at a few of the questions here. Okay, number 1, you can. So the instructions are, read the instructions carefully, the directions. What is it asking you to do? What is this question asking you to do? So it is questions 1 to 5. The correct part of the sentence or the correct sentence, right? So in number 1, which one is correct? So your options are here. Now you don't have the options right away over here. So it's not selecting the correct options. You have A, B, C, D, B only, A and B, A, B and D. Those are your answer options. D only. So you think others are incorrect? So what is wrong in A? When you look up a word, the main thing that you want to know was its
Is it?
And B, ITS apostrophe. Right? That's a error. A great many various words in English have more than one meaning.
Redundancy.
Redundancy, yes, correct. So a great many various words makes no sense. Many words in English, no, right?
Even a great many is grammatically correct, right?
Great many could be grammatically correct, but it is redundant. Right? So either you say many words That is more than enough. Great many is not required.
Would you agree that foreign redundancy to a large would remove the charm of these things?
No, yeah, that, see, when you are using something and you're repeating, that is okay when you have a certain style of writing. But when you are doing grammar questions, you will go with the ones which are concise. Right? So always choose the one with the concise. Okay, now C, what is wrong in C? Okay, C we did. So D, that wasn't a very fair thing to say. That's the only one which is correct. Okay, number, so there will be only one which is correct. You will never have to, if you have to correct, that will be the sentence in it. In these type of questions, you always have only one correct. Right? So number 2, she has a fair chance of winning. Here you see, the word fair has been used in all of them. Right? So she has a fair chance of winning the first prize. Fair weather is forecasted for tomorrow. Now there could be more, either a problem with fair or some other grammatical error. Right?
But fair, like it's one word but has many
It has many
meanings.
meanings.
Beta and
Yeah,
like,
that's all.
it is fair or not fair.
Hmm.
So like beta doesn't have
Fair is
any-
also good. Right?
So
And
all of them have the same spelling. Like there's no
Same
word
spelling.
that
there's FARD is a homophone. FARD is like the fare you pay to the auto rickshaw.
What about that? So
That is FARD. So it sounds the same, but it's spelled different. And FAIR, fair, this can be used in different ways in different sentences. It could have different meanings. So in this, what? Now, if you look at these sentences, which one would be correct? Yes, Adesh, can you tell me? Which one is correct?
actually first is spelling.
Which one is correct? Yes.
So might be both
Hmm?
B might be
B.
I
Now
think
she has a fair chance of winning the first prize. That is grammatically correct. We can't find any errors, you know. Now if you look at B, fair weather is forecasted for tomorrow. Now here FAIR fair is correct,
that is one.
right? Now is forecasted for tomorrow.
Is it that's right?
Yeah, it would be like you can say fair weather. It's usually you say fair weather.
It's like not good, but not
Yeah,
bad.
not bad, but more or less pleasant weather. And it's good weather, you can say. Is forecasted for tomorrow. Is tomorrow's forecast, we can say. Yeah. So out of these two, I think this could be improved upon, and A would be better for us. Yeah. And if you look at the other, there's a fair on at the park. This is very weak.
We do see
Redundancy
Yeah. Redundancy. Where's the redundancy?
is very weak.
It's very weak.
but we do say word as
Yeah, we do say, but that's wrong.
yeah. So even if we use it, it's wrong. It's
There are
very
lots of words, like if you go to the, I think it's there in the book. There are lots of phrases which we use, commonly used, but they are wrong grammatically. Right?
So that would be this very weak.
This very week is wrong.
But it would be correct to say there's a fair on at the part of this week.
This week will be correct, not this very week. Now, don't forget to wind down your watch. What would you say?
Wind down is not.
Wind up your watch, not
But
wind
what
down.
was wide?
Like winding watches are things that you have been doing. We've
Okay,
been
like to
doing.
wind up.
Yeah. Chabi lagana.
Uh,
That thing, winding a watch. Nowadays we don't need to wind a watch, it's all digital. So, but old types of watches, even the wristwatches would have to be wound. Yeah. Okay. Now the rest of these two we can do. We'll go to type 2. Just we'll pick up a few of type 2. Okay, number 1. Okay, everyone, type 2, question number 1 on your screen. You can turn the page in your books to number 1. So here, first read the instruction. Have you read the instruction? What does it say?
Sentences have to be added.
Yeah, the incorrect sentence. This is not correct sentence, incorrect.
Or the sentences so long.
Yeah, these are a little long. So this will give you practice. If you get smaller ones, it will be easy for you. So which one is incorrect? So you read all of them, eliminate the ones which are correct.
Ma'am, I think the answer is only C, according to me.
Only C. Okay, let's see. What about everybody else? Huh? So what was the discussion? A.
A was like past.
Yeah, which salvation was to come through an since the tense is also there, and if you see salvation was to come from the direction of Central Asia, with Russia shipping 4,000 barrels per day of crude through an overland pipe to Japan in northern China. So salvation was to come with Russia. So we don't know whether it was or has been done. Right? So there's a little bit of clarity error over there. Okay, now if you look at B. Yes, what's wrong in B? Anybody can tell me? Adesh, what's wrong with B?
Yes, ma'am.
So now is B correct? You have to identify the incorrect sentence. So A is otherwise correct. So if the sentence is written in such a way, but it was to come. We don't know whether it has come or not. So was to come was be correct. So number B, what is it correct? No, what's wrong?
It should be scheduled.
It should be.
Scheduled.
You're
Asked.
behind schedule. Why should it be scheduled? However, it is more than a year behind schedule and dogged by uncertainty.
Is by correct or only switch word?
Dogged by uncertainty, because there is uncertainty whether it is going to be completed or not. Yeah, it is already behind schedule. So here we don't really find any error. Right? Okay, now C. Suddenly the hundreds of coral atolls have shifted over into focus, even though the documented evidence of oil and gas supplies is at best circumspect. So what's wrong here?
It shouldn't be shifted over, it should be just shifted into.
Shifted, yes, shifted into focus. That is an error. Anything else? I think that's the only error here. Suddenly hundreds of collaborators have shifted into focus, even though the documented review of oil and gas supplies is at best circumspect. Circumspect means, write it down. Circumspect. Now,
Suspecting everything that
suspected.
is.
So it is not sure. It is under questionable. The hundreds of atolls suddenly you're talking. So here, when you're talking about using the, it means it is something specific. Those, the. So not just hundreds of atolls anywhere in the world, but the hundreds of atolls specific. Right? Okay, so here our problem is C is incorrect. So is now is D correct? Diplomatic reports suggest that China may be poised for a decisive push into the region. We can't find anything wrong there, right? Okay. So we just have about 5 minutes. We'll move on. So now the other 4 questions in this you'll be doing, right? See if you can find the correct answers or wrong answers, whatever the question asks you. Okay, now here. These are directions for type 3, questions 1 to 5. For each of the following questions, a part or whole of the original sentence has been underlined. You have to find the best way of writing the underlined part of the sentence. So this is where you have to improve on the given part. Yeah. So, and if you don't find anything that improves on it, if you look at the first one. The A is always, so in this A is the same as given. So you have to see which one is better. So whatever is given to you, it could be correct, could not be correct. You could have a better option. So read through all of them and see which one would give you a better option. It's a long one. So first read what is underlined. So is there any grammatical error here? If you don't find any grammatical error, then you have to look for a sentence which maybe is concise. It seems to be correct. Okay. So now what you do is you don't eliminate it, but you go through the others and see if any other option makes a sentence better. Now if you see, yes?
Ma'am, I think it should be referred B1.
B1. Yeah.
I also think it's B.
So referred back, the matter was referred to is enough to say that it was given to the committee to
But like back is not
file.
needed.
Yeah, back is not needed over here.
No, but back signifies that previously in the past there was a situation where one of the issues was closed, and now there's another issue.
The matter was referred back. So even if you say referred to, it will imply the same.
But wouldn't it slightly alter the meaning because it was different from the one proposed earlier, and that is why it was referred back to them again.
Referred back, I think. Even if you say referred, now it was given to and it was referred to again. Yeah, so if you say instead of saying referred to again, if you say referred to, means they have to go through it again. Yeah. So out of these, I think B would be concise, given all the other options. So if you look at C, refer back to the community since the solution to the problem was different than the one to the same thing. But the community sees the same thing. Was different than, okay, here, this is the problem here, than the one. You won't say than the one, different from, right? And here also we have done, eliminated. Referred back to the committee since the solution for the problem was different than, so all of these are eliminated. So between A and B, B would be a little concise, right? So any problem now? Now type 4 you can do. Type 4 is a little easier.
Ma'am, it's the same thing, like identify the best way of writing the
Right.
sentence.
Yeah.
But
So in
the
the,
part is not underlined, you have to find a whole or
yeah, the whole thing. So we had the 4 types. One was finding the incorrect. Second is finding the correct. Third is a part is underlined. Fourth is nothing is underlined. You have to find the best option. Right? So any doubts so far? Yeah. As much as you can do. Okay.
maths.
Okay, fine. Maybe you can at least do 1 or 2 so that, or
At
maybe
least-
tomorrow we can do. 2 from each time you can do. Right? Tomorrow is also English. Unless, so can take class. Otherwise, I think. Right? So we'll be continuing with this also. So our next session will also be similar. And all of these we will require lots of practice. So don't think that we did it in class. The end.
Yes.
I won't do all the exercises in class. You'll have to do, and you have to come back with doubts. If you don't come back with doubts, I will take it that you are not practicing.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
odd
Yes.
man out is homework or we have to do it tomorrow?
You can, odd man out you can do later. Maybe not for tomorrow, over the week you can do it.
But it's homework, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
The first 5 I said for homework, so odd man out we'll do slowly, part by part. So in odd man out, I told you, find the meanings, take up each of the words. If you don't know the meaning, find the meaning, write them down, find synonyms, and like the odd man out, you have the main thing in odd man out is you have to look for synonyms, right? Similar words will not be odd. So finding synonyms and odd man outs is very important. So anything which is an antonym to the given word will be odd. Right? That's how you do those. Okay. So far, any doubts? All clear? Yeah. Okay. Then. Thank you. So we end the session for today. I'll see you tomorrow. And tomorrow, everyone, please have time so we don't miss out on it. Okay?